Alrighty, so I'm going to make an advanced Intel overclocking with this extreme tuning app. And I'm not going to say that this program is the best because it's not. Overclocking with the BIOS is much better. It's more stable. You can remove it very easily. This one is kind of wonky. You can have a lot of problems with it, but if you don't get too greedy and you stay within a decent threshold, I should say, you shouldn't have too much of a problem. So I'm using an i5 9600K and a Z370 motherboard. You need to make sure to have a K Intel, so that letter K needs to be at the back for overclocking, and you need to have a Z motherboard. So Z490, Z590, Z390, Z370, Z970. Any of those allow overclocking. Now, if you do not have those uh, those components for overclocking, this app isn't completely useless for you. You can actually use this app to do an undervolt to reduce speeds. Using the BIOS, you can do that as well, but it's kind of hard to follow certain videos because it doesn't match. This one will match pretty much everyone. You can look up what people say, look up on Reddit what overclocking or undervolting that they get away with, and try it. And don't be super bummed if it doesn't work for you because it doesn't always work for everybody. So we're going to go right into advanced tuning. My thing is set to absolute default. And you can always tell that if you go over here. Actually, you can't. Forget that. We'll get to that after. I'm jumping ahead of myself. So rather than focusing on all, where there's all this stuff going on, we're just going to focus on core. So for me, I know that my computer can handle 5, no problem. It can do 5.1, but it can sometimes get unstable. I find with this newest update that they just brought out with, it erased my current overclock and made it all set back to default, which kind of upsets me. If you do make a mistake, you can click this X, but as soon as you click apply, these X's go away, and I think that's stupid. I think that they should leave that in case you decide like, oh crap, I didn't want to do that, but whatever. So for my CPU, I'm going to go with a 1.25 because I know that works. I know if you look up MSI website for their motherboards of overclocking on i5 9600K, they recommend a 1.35, but it can get a little bit toasty doing that. So I'm going to go with 1.25. 1.25. I'll go with a 1.250. And I'm going to do an offset of 50. So that way it'll only use it if it needs it. Adaptive. Alright, so that should be hunky-dory. Now, this is the part where you click apply, and you hope to God it works. So click apply, and just because it goes in doesn't mean necessarily that it's good. It can change. So you can see that my max core frequency has jumped up. And basically what I did was I changed my turbo. So now my CPU can go up to this high when I'm gaming, which is better. So let's say that you made a mistake and you want to go back. You can actually go down to profiles and you'll have this default. You click this and you click show values, and if you click apply, this will pull you back to the original settings. Now the problem with this is it can make your computer crash, but so far from my experience, even if it did make my computer crash and restart, it still sets it back to its original defaults. So that is decent. Now you can do a stress test and benchmark. The problem with these is I can do an overclock of 5.2 no problem with the CPU and it will stay on. And I can play games non-stop, no crashing, with a 5.1, 5.2 with a decent amount of voltage. But what happens, why did that change? That's interesting. I don't understand why that changed. I'm just going to set that back up and click apply. No, it's still saved. That's weird. I don't know why it removed the numbers. Very interesting. But if I switch this, I bet I can apply. Okay, so... Alright, well, at least I figured that out so no one freaks out in case they run into the same thing. Back to what I was saying. If I do 5.1 or 5.2, I can game for like months on end with no problems. But the second I do a stress test, my PC will crash. So my thinking is, yes, it's unstable when doing that stuff, but if the program that I want or the thing that I'm reaching for works for gaming, that's all I really care about. If that works, I don't care if my CPU is stable or not. But that's just me. Like, I understand some people are like, oh, I want to make sure it's stable all the time. Me, I don't care. I care about the one program that I'm using. If it works for gaming, perfect. That's all I care about. So, in a nutshell, don't get greedy because if you do start getting crashes, it will start taking up a lot of time in your day. So, just practice very, very little. Practice some undervolting. See if you can get decent temps. Like that's the best you can basically do. So the thing is with the CPU, you want to keep it under 80 Celsius. Anything above 80 Celsius, like 85, is okay, but not great. Anything under 70 Celsius or 70 Celsius is good for gaming and high loads. If you can get it down to 60, then you're laughing. It will help keep your components very, very cool. 60 Celsius under load is like what to aim for, but anything under 80 is safe. Anything above 85 is warm. Anything 90 and above is damaging your CPU.